Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode here at the Partner Go-to-Market Institute. Today I have Peter Fogg. He is a fractional partner leader and consultant with many scars in the world of partnerships. So I'm super happy to have him here and talk about partnership compensation plans. Peter, how are you? It's good to see you again.
Good seeing you, Rick. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your time. And let's jump right into it and tell us a little bit about your journey in working with partners. What have you done in the past and what are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. I have kind of a unique background and history that got me to doing partnership work. I was in direct sales for agencies and SIs for about 10 or 12 years. So I saw partnerships from the service provider side and then moved back into enterprise software, which is where I had been way earlier in my career. And I was really fortunate that I got a job um, still as a direct salesperson. This is back around 2009, 2010 with Sitecore. And some of the
Mhm,
listeners may know about Sitecore. Back at that time, the head of sales for North America and the president of North America really were leaning into a partner-led strategy before anybody was talking about that. That was incredibly unique then.
mhm,
And so the charter as a quota carrying sales team was to go recruit partners and drive your book of business through partnerships, which was incredible. The flip side of that is there was very little training on how to
mm,
do that. There was no tools. I joke with friends in my network that, it was here's your partner agreement, go figure it out. And the really challenging thing about that, Rick, was that I was there about 6 years, and the first 2 years it was a commission only position, no salary, no
mhm,
benefits. And if you did not figure out how to recruit and onboard and activate and drive pipeline, you didn't feed your family. So
yeah.
you're really forced to kind of have this iterative test, like just keep trying things and um, out of necessity.
Mhm,
And fortunately, it was one of the things that was unique about that environment was the leadership supported it. It was their go-to-market strategy. So there's just a lot of little things in a sales culture that change when you have your leadership from the president and CRO on down being
mhm,
partner-centric, including compensation, which I know is the
yeah.
main theme for today, but it's even just your day-to-day behavior when your sales leader is treating partnership relationships as more important than any single deal, that means behaviors start to take on a more partner-centric and a long-term perspective that you don't see as often in a traditional direct sales
Mhm,
organization.
yeah.
So I've taken all of that, forced learning, and I try to help others who, even today, I think a lot of partner leaders, maybe even a majority of partner leaders, are hired into their roles without any formal training on how to do any of the stuff that they need to do. And it's,
That's
you
true.
know, here's your laptop, here's your email address, go build partners. So if I can help them avoid some of the common mistakes and, you know, fast forward their own success, then I've left the industry a little bit better than when I started in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. There's still today, there's a knowledge gap on people jumping into the world of partnerships.
Yeah.
Um, And you reminded me, I also had back in the early 2000s, one of those 100% commission sales roles. And that was tough. I don't think that exists anymore, luckily. But yeah, that was a tough job to have because if you
It
didn't
really is.
sell, then like, well, there's no paycheck. So let's talk about compensation plans. And
Okay.
one of the key questions is why compensation plans for partnership roles shouldn't be modeled after traditional sales comp plans. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, having had to design a couple of comp plans in the last 10 years, you always want to, first of all, align with the KPIs that sales leadership and company leadership has. But you also have to have a balance between what are those big KPIs, one of which is always going to be partner sourced revenue. They want
Hmm.
top of every mind
Yeah.
of anybody who's bringing in a partner team is, you know, deals. But you have to balance that with long-term health and what the partner managers actually have responsibility for. And when I've built my plans, I always wanted to have the partner sourced a big component, but
Hmm.
also you want some component to be booked revenue. And it's a little bit controversial in some circles that, well, the partner manager doesn't close deals, so how can you ask them to have, a
Hmm.
KPI? And I would say, well, that's a very serious thing to be exploring what works in your organization, but having at least some part of the variable comp tied to deals closing improves a lot of processes, such as internal collaboration. If
Hmm.
they're paid on the deal coming into the pipeline and they don't have any skin in the game for deals closing, they can throw it over the fence to the sales team and say, go work this
Yeah.
deal. But if they have some of that skin in the game, then they may be more inclined to work more collaboratively with sales. But it's also check and balance to keep healthy partner relationships and the right kind of partners in the ecosystem. Everyone who's worked with partners for a while always has the horror story of a partner who doesn't fit,
Hmm.
your brand or your culture or something about your business. And if your partner team is only measured and compensated on deals, flowing into the pipeline, they don't have any incentive to make sure that they're good deals or they're positioned the right way with partners.
Hmm.
And it's not that partner managers' sole responsibility, but they do have some accountability for making sure their partners who are referring deals know how to set expectations on budget and timeframes and capability of the product or whatever it is that's being sold. So if they have a little bit of that skin in the game for the booked,
Hmm.
then they have that motivation to keep those conversations going. I always like to have three legs to the compensation stool for partner managers. The biggest one varies depending on maturity of the program and the maturity of their territory, but it's often in most cases going to be um, pipeline, the partner sourced. Booked is one, and then the third is the one that the individual manager managing them can fine tune to what their situation is. If they're in a startup territory, you could put a small incentive for recruiting partners.
Hmm.
And I would caution that that shouldn't be partner agreement signed. If anyone's heard me talking about partner recruiting and processes, one of my pet peeves is the academic signing of partner agreements. You don't want that. You don't want them just out there running around and getting, signatures that become paper partners. But you can still have a measurement there of recruiting and activating.
Hmm.
It could be, and the way I've done it a couple of times is it's tied to first deal from a new
Yeah.
partner hitting the pipeline. So if I call you up, Rick, and I recruit you to be a new partner for my company, and then my KPI is working with you to get you to source the first deal, that's
Yeah.
that's a significant benefit to both parties. So having that as a third leg of compensation for certain roles can be really, really useful.
Yeah. I really like that term, paper partner. Unfortunately, I have seen that in the past. Just collecting signatures. Hey, you want to join a partner program? Just sign here. No strings attached. But to your
Yeah.
point,
It
that
it
doesn't really
comes
count.
it comes from an immature discipline that is
Hmm.
partnerships in tech, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's anybody's fault. It's just the nature of our discipline in tech is less mature than the other corporate
Yeah.
functions. And somehow over the last 15 years, 10, 15, 20 years, we mistakenly thought that if we recruit partners and have them signing a partner agreement, that's a
Hmm.
positive milestone. And maybe it was at one time, I don't know, but I believe that it's putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Hmm.
And it's a waste of time, frankly.
Yeah. It's always
So
the challenge of quantity versus quality. You need to
yeah,
balance that.
and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to change the volume. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
you necessarily are committing to a smaller number of partners you're trying to recruit. I'm simply advocating that getting a partner agreement signed isn't the right milestone to be measuring. And if you're putting that up in the front of the process, you're spending time on
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
something academic at the wrong time. You
Yeah.
should be spending more time on building the joint value prop. How you
Yeah.
build that into compensation is tricky. So you have to tie what you want the partner managers doing is activating those partners, either recruiting them and activating them or activating paper partners who haven't performed. But
Hmm.
ultimately, you want to get deals flowing between the two companies. So you have to have one of the compensation measurements somehow tied to a partner who'd never done something suddenly doing something. And it's not
Yeah.
signing a partner agreement. It can
Yeah.
be sourcing a deal, it could be influencing a deal. And I'm a big fan of partner influence being a major KPI. And the more mature the ecosystem the manager has responsibility for, the more important I would make influence revenue over sourced.
Hmm.
And some CROs might cringe at me saying that, but a healthy partner ecosystem should be much more involved in your business than simply throwing referred deals over the fence. It should be helping your direct sales team, close deals more quickly, make deals bigger because they find out who the real decision makers are or who the
Hmm.
competition is. And, I think a healthy, especially today, the complexity of B2B projects has so many different vendors involved from multiple SaaS providers to multiple service providers. So it's more important than ever, I believe, to have a pack hunting mentality.
Hmm.
And I usually
Yeah.
say, my goal would be for every single direct deal to not only have partner influence, but multiple partners influencing it. That's when you've
True.
got a really healthy ecosystem. If you can say every single deal in the dashboard has multiple partners who are advocating for us, informing us, telling us we're
Hmm.
going to lose, so we shouldn't be wasting our time, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people don't realize that one deal can have, in fact, multiple partners. You can have a partner sourcing the deal. You can have a partner influencing it with, I don't know, they're going to provide additional software to complement the solution. You have another partner that's going to do the services, perhaps. So yeah, there's definitely complexity that can happen in some of those deals, and I think it's important to recognize, which is a totally different challenge, right? Tracking and reporting all of that. But
It certainly is.
if you can somehow figure it out, then you'll be recognizing the right partners for the right deals. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. Um, Peter, let me ask you one more thing. You have mentioned a couple of times already how comp plans should be aligned to the maturity of partner programs.
Yeah.
And I heard you say a couple of things like if you have a developing territory, perhaps, you have some KPIs related to number of partners, right? Then you can have KPIs related to activation of partners. You can eventually make partner influence a bigger portion of that compensation plan as, again, the maturity grows. Is there something else that you think should be considered in terms of comp plan versus maturity of the partner program?
Yeah, and kind of sitting in front of maturity of the program is the maturity of the company and the market they're in. So
Mm,
if you're an early stage startup, you have to factor that into how partners are going to respond to working with
yeah.
you. And if you're an early stage startup in an emerging category, so if you think
Hmm.
about every startup that's been funded in AI is not only an early stage company, they're in a brand new category that is
Yeah.
not mature, does not have a well documented addressable market. We all think we know what, it's going to be, but by segment, by company,
Mhm.
by, territory, there's so many uncertainty there that you have to factor that into the comp plan and your strategy,
Yeah.
including, the less mature all of those things are, the more it's going to change what your ideal
Yeah.
a partner profile is. You can't be a startup in a startup segment and decide you're going to go out and do business with the hyperscalers or with the
Hmm.
GSI. You're a dot on, a very big chart, and
Yeah.
you're not going to get their attention. So don't put that in a comp plan and don't have somebody accountable for doing something that's completely unrealistic to achieve.
Yeah. I think there's like a tsunami of AI native startups. And sometimes I feel like, are they jumping too fast into the partnership motion? Why don't they just focus on your standard market product fit, right? Make sure that they have a product that resonates with customers and customers actually buying before trying to go after hyperscalers, GSI, or even medium-sized agencies or providers. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate the energy behind partnerships because everybody nowadays, well, many realize that partnerships can really grow and scale your business, but it has to be done at the right time.
Well, I,
So,
I see I see both sides of it, Rick.
mhm,
I agree with you. There has to be at least an MVP. There
yeah,
are really, really early stage companies who are trying to use partners to help build the MVP, and that's going to be risky for everybody. But doing partnerships earlier has the benefit of weaving a partner or ecosystem-led motion right into the sales culture, and that's a big deal. Like if you have a really strong direct sales culture and then you want to bring partnerships into it later,
mhm,
that's a very hard change to
yeah,
get people used to trusting other people in the deals. So there's an advantage there.
yeah, yeah. Very good points. I,
We probably all have stories at some point in our career where a partner brought a deal to the table and then they got stiff-armed by, the sales team, like, oh, thanks for the lead. And they
yeah,
go, talk to the customer and maybe even sell the deal and don't even tell the partner what's going on.
yeah,
And it's, first of all, it's a missed opportunity because that partner knows something. They brought the deal to the table because they know something. So if you're not co-selling with them, you're just
hmm,
making a colossal mistake. But it's also just
yeah,
rude. They bring a deal to the table and they don't even have the courtesy of telling them when you're meeting the client and you've given them pricing, and
yeah.
that's not a partnership. That's
Not at
uh,
all. Yeah,
yeah,
big lack of integrity, I think, in that case. Yeah.
yeah.
Peter, awesome. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge here. I really appreciate all your insights, and hopefully this will also be helpful to many others in working in partnerships. Thank
I
you very
hope
much,
so.
Peter.
Thanks for your time, Rick.
All right, see ya.